A very warm welcome back to you. Thank you for your support, your comments, subscribing, encouragement for this important case of sport horse, dressage horse abuse. So before I go through the official FEI statement, I want to take a look at Charlotte Dujardin's Facebook page, and she herself has made a statement which says, I fully respect the verdict issued by the FEI released today. As they have recognised, my actions in the video do not reflect who I am. And I can only apologise again. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position in the sport. Well, she probably would now. And I will forever aim to do better. But she doesn't say better at what. This has undoubtedly been one of the darkest and most difficult periods of my life. Well, what about the horse? And the rider is going to have, this is going to have a lasting effect on the rider too. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has supported me during this time. To those of you who have sent messages, emails, and tried to reach me to check in on how I am, thank you. Every kind word has truly made a difference, more than you'll ever know. So sounds very much that she's having a hard time being a victim in all this. What I was unable to share at the time is that I'm currently pregnant. Due February, planned well before the Olympics, and something my partner and I have been excited about for a long time. At the moment, the energy I have is focused on partner and daughter, and we're all very much looking forward to the arrival of our new family member. So to me, this is like, well, this bad thing's happened, but look over here. Don't look at the bad thing. Look over here. I'm pregnant. Isn't that good news? So we are inspired to feel happy about this. So she has some 518,000 followers, and 25,000 of them, so 5%, have taken the time to give her likes, loves, and hugs. 529 have shared, and 4,300 have made comments. So not all of those comments are showing support for her. But what I'm disappointed by is I can see that, or Facebook lets me see those who are my friends on Facebook. And I'm really shocked to see how many other veterinary physiotherapists have liked, loved and hugged one or other, saddle fitters. So yeah, so of my 1,900 friends, the names that I'm shown there, I can see that they have support for her. So I can't see how any equine therapist can stand by this example of horse abuse. So I think there's a lot of weirdness out there about this case, but nevertheless, the press are still on the case. So Horse and Hound, news at sky.com. Oh, it's one of my videos as a suggestion. And the Irish Times, Horse to Rider, the BBC. So nip in and have a look at those stories yourself. So now we'll take a look at the FEI official statement. So I'll just skim my way through that. I've highlighted the important bits. 5th of December, this was released, their decision notice yesterday. And the FEI Tribunal panel are these three individuals here. After becoming aware of a video footage displaying Miss Dujardin excessively whipping a horse during a training session, the FEI initiated disciplinary proceedings against the respondent. The case was opened for possible abuse of horse, breach of the FEI Code of Conduct for the welfare of the horse, so not for her physical conduct, it's directly for abusing a horse, and bringing equestrian sport into disrepute. Following regulations are applicable, so there's 3 process statements here. And then finally, Code of Conduct on the welfare of the horse. So this is about their procedure, and this is about the welfare. The facts: FEI is a recognised international governing body for equestrian sport in the disciplines of, so it's not all equestrian sport, dressage, para-equestrian dressage, jumping, eventing, driving and paradriving, endurance and vaulting. The respondent is bound by the FEI regulations, including the statutes and the GRs. So yeah, she's a member of the FEI. She's bound by their rules. 22nd of July, they received an official complaint from a lawyer representing an anonymous complainant alleging that Ms. Dujardin had engaged in animal cruelty. They attached a video, which was also spread on social media and TV channels. Odd how they put that in. The video shows Ms. Dujardin using the whip on the horse and the horse showing discomfort. Well, is that the veterinary opinion? And is that the best description of what happened? Anyhow, this is a very formal document, but yeah, their official perception of it is disappointing to me. It demonstrates the following: a training session where Ms. Dujardin, as a trainer, I would dispute that, is giving a lesson to a rider who is mounted on a horse. She's whipping the horse from the ground with a lunging whip, and she starts off by holding the whip with one hand, then holding it with both hands while using more force. So yeah, she's changed to both hands to apply more force. That's acknowledged by them. And she's whipping the horse mostly from behind on the hind legs, but in between also from the front, on the front legs and shoulders of the horse. That horse had no escape from this. Front, back. What was the horse supposed to do? The plan was to improve the canter steps and step higher. So presumably she's had to whip all 4 legs to do that. In total, more than 20 times. Same day, the respondent was informed via a notice of open investigations that she was subject to an FEI investigation further to the allegations of abuse of horse reported to the FEI, and in view of the urgency of the matter, Ms. Dujardin was requested to provide a written reply. So this has happened very quickly. On the 22nd, they received the video and a complaint, and the next day, the respondent provided a reply to the notice and informed the FEI that she voluntarily accepted the imposition of a provisional suspension pending investigation. So this is just restating what we already know, but it's important that these facts come directly from the FEI. 27th of July, 4 days later, she submitted her initial explanations regarding the allegations. But that's not stated here. 10th of September, 2 months later, they issued a notification letter. Abuse of the horse, breach of the Code of Conduct for the welfare of the horse, and bringing the sport into disrepute. And the FEI informed the respondent of the possibility of admitting the alleged infringements and accepting the sanctions proposed by the FEI in the same notification letter. And this was a 1-year suspension and a 10,000 Swiss francs fine, which I understand is $10,000 or thereabouts, and £8,000. So considering that she trained a horse, which enabled her to buy a house in the Cotswolds with an acre of land, and that the house is now worth 750,000. This is not a lot of money. This may sound like a big fine, but it's not when you put it into context. And I'm not even sure if she'll get a tax deduction for that. Maybe. And the important thing about this that springs to my mind is that she was given a 6-month suspension, which puts this case in although it was provisional, if you like, but it puts this case in the medium category of offences, rule breaking, only carrying, I believe, 2-year maximum. And this is old rules. They've since changed the rules, which I've made a video about, so that they have increased the sanctions. So it seems odd that it didn't take them long to initially decide, as I see it, that she was going to get a 6-month sanction, which was later increased to a year. But it just sounds to me like this was set, or the boundaries of the sanctions were set quite early on, that some sort of reflection on the video suggested that the sanctions were going to be limited in the mid-range. I just think that's odd, without having had the hearing and having decided it quite promptly after the video showed up. And various submissions and statements were remitted by the respondent in the context of the FEI proceedings. The FEI carefully reviewed the video and counted 20 hits of the whip. Such use clearly amounts to an excessive use of the whip, which was caused, or was likely to have caused, discomfort and possibly pain to the horse. And her misconduct warrants the imposition of sanctions. So, yes, this incident falls within their rules for sanctioning. In assessing the appropriate level of sanction to propose, the FEI has reviewed the alleged offences with reference to the general sanctioning principles. 23rd of October, they notified the tribunal, the FEI tribunal, that it had reached an acceptance of sanctions with the respondent. So July to October, space in between, respondent accepts the sanctions of a 1-year suspension and a fine. 13th of November, almost a month later, 3 weeks or so, the tribunal formed a 3-person hearing panel to adjudicate and approve this case. So this is all very official, but this is process. This is how these processes are processed. The parties were asked to provide any objections to the constitution of the hearing panel. So that reads like they have to check their rules and make sure they're correctly applied or appropriately applied. 13th of November, the respondent and the FEI confirmed having no objection to the constitution of the hearing panel. So this all sounds very straightforward. On the 19th of November, the panel noted under Article 30.3 of the IRS, the respondent shall have a period following receipt of the notification letter to send his initial response admitting or denying the alleged infringement. So Again, more process. 21st of November, the FEI stated that there is no specific mathematic or other formula set down, given that the sanctions set out in the table of sanctions, they provided for a sliding scale of categories of gravity of sanction from low end to maximum, with mid in the middle, and a range of penalties within each category in terms of suspension, duration, and applicable fine. It's clear that there is regulatory scope for the application of discretion by the FEI when assessing the level of sanctions. So, as I just said, if this is mid-range, the maximum was 2 years, and then they start deducting for good behaviour, as it were. So there were mitigating and aggravating factors. So within the maximum of the sanction, there were things which appeared in a good light and those which appeared in not such a good light. So they took into consideration that Ms. Dujardin voluntarily decided to withdraw from the Olympics and thus missed the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. So, yes, I read that as saying, well, she did suffer considerable disappointment at not being able to go to the games. So that's partial sanction, as it were. On the 21st of November, the respondent submitted a signed power of attorney, so signed, sealed, delivered, as it were. And the respondent explicitly admitted that she committed the abuse of a horse, a breach of the FEI Code of Conduct for the welfare of the horse. So, yeah, she's basically saved them a lot of time, a lot of investigation into deciding this case, because she's come forward and said, yes, hold my hands up, it was me. Well, there was a video, photographic evidence there, witnesses, so I can't see what else she could have done, and I don't know what the conversations were back and forward between her or her lawyers and the FEI, but it would appear that what's happened here is it's straightforward. She's been found out about this incident. She can't deny it. So she's ever so sorry about it. And let's just put this to bed, shall we? As I see it, reading between the lines. Rule violations were that she admits that she committed abuse of a horse and that she's brought the sport into disrepute. She's accepted the period of suspension and she's already been suspended since last July. So with a 1-year sanction, you won't see her at competition, but this doesn't mean that the FEI can put her into a coma or prevent her from training horses, being around horses, owning horses. This is a 1-year don't come near the show ring deal. But that's all they can do. That's what their rules allow for. Perhaps if they wanted to or felt that they wanted to impose greater sanction, they couldn't because they're bound by their rules. The fine and the legal costs, so each party bear their own legal costs. Right of appeal has been waived and the decision will be made public and is full and final settlement. So, yeah, there's no need for an appeal here because she's come forward and said, I own up, that was me. Appealing is not really appropriate in this situation, but she still has the right, or did have the right. And the reasoning behind the sanctions, she's a member of the GBRNF, which is a member of the FEI. So she's a member of another organisation based in the Great Britain, and therefore she's bound by the FEI regulations. Having reviewed the case summary, she admitted the violations of the regulations in the sense that she committed abuse of a horse, which is a breach of the FEI Code of Conduct for the Welfare of the Horse, and brought equestrian sport into disrepute. Big time. The panel further acknowledges that the respondent has voluntarily accepted the terms, so more process. The panel confirms the terms. In particular, the panel notes that following the investigations conducted by the FEI considered that the video constituted only the occurrence of horse abuse committed by the respondent in what can be considered as an isolated incident. Listen carefully to what's coming up here. So they can only make a judgment or a ruling, a decision on what's placed in front of them. Should the circumstances under which the present proposal acceptance of sanctions change, the FEI shall then open new proceedings against the respondent, and any other allegation or incident not considered would also then need to be investigated independently. So here you are, for all those who have stated that they may potentially have evidence that the respondent is rather harsh around with horses. And I've made several videos about what I see as horse abuse in her autobiography. But if people who have witnessed something want to, and I suggest get together because they always need witnesses for these types of situations, but the FEI has stated here that if there's anything else, bring it forward, we'll open the investigation. So in other words, do this or get off the pot. But they are providing an opportunity, and it's good to see that because people don't know about these processes. They applied their discretion in considering the matter as a whole, taking into account also the mitigating and aggravating circumstances. Sanctions were thereafter offered to the respondent within the sliding scale of categories of gravity of sanction. Well, I don't consider that it slid very far there, but it is under old rules, and rules sanctions have increased, likely as a consequence of this case and events in the Paris Olympics surrounding other competitors. Within the range of penalties applicable, they're saying this is all we can do because we have to follow our own rules. From the above, the panel wishes, however, to state that it did not analyse whether the accepted sanctions are to be considered as reasonable or not, but rather whether they fell within the parameters set forth in their rules and regulations. And I've been saying this from the start that, much as we would perceive that in terms of what the RSPCA may sanction, from my point of view, we would perceive that she needs more time to reflect on this than 1 year, that they can only do what they can do within their rules, and fair play to them, they have taken a step towards increasing those sanctions. So the best we can hope for at this stage. But no, actually the best we can hope for is that now that the FEI has completed their investigation, their decision, the RSPCA needs to step in and do what they would normally do and apply their rules, prepare a court hearing which will potentially apply more sanctions under the British legal system. And this decision shall terminate the present case. So there's no appeal. It's done, it's dusted. And they've agreed that the decision will be made public by the FEI and not subject to appeal. So there it is, and there you have it. Do leave a comment. What do you think? What would you like to see happen next? Are you happy about the new baby arriving in February? Personally, I don't think we'll see her back, but having read her statement out, I don't see that there is enough awareness there of the gravity of what she's done. But hey ho, we'll wait and see. This is a process. It's now completed. So thank you very much for viewing, and let's see what the national press has to say about this. I'll be back shortly with a look at the FEI changes that they're going to make. And as ever, thank you for your comments.